Hey, let's re-record this video. Charlie, I thought you were supposed to be ready for today's anatomy lesson. I know we thought we had these recorded yesterday, but I apologize, guys. Charlie is really not in professional attire for today's anatomy lesson. Looks like he got into some stuff. Jeez, Charlie. So my Anatomy 4 video did not record properly, so I'm going to re-record it, and apparently Charlie's just falling apart here. All right. So Anatomy Study Guide Part 4. I'm gonna redo this one because the video did not upload well to YouTube. This one would be the very last part of that study guide. It starts, I think, with larynx, which we've already covered, and it goes all the way through, I think it's like the alveoli and the alveolar ducts. So we're gonna go through that section. Okay, so I'm going to grab the lung that fell out here. I'm going to pull out this other lung. You might notice this model actually does a really lovely job showing us some of these inner workings here, some of the flow for the air. We're going to pull this out as well. All right. So we already did the larynx. You'll remember here that the larynx is going to extend in this region here. And then after the larynx, then we're going to get into the trachea. So the trachea here is shown with this blue tubing. You can see it kind of has this ribbed-like pattern to it as we extend through. And you can see that it comes down as one branch initially, and then it's going to separate. So when it separates, it's going to become the left and right primary bronchi. So if we're going back here for anatomical position, we remember that this is the right side of Charlie or the patient, so this is going to be the right primary bronchi, and then over here we'd have the left primary bronchi. What's nice about this model too, I don't know if you can tell, we can actually pop some of these parts out and play with them a little bit. So what happens after we go through the primary bronchi is we're going to see that they're going to come over here and branch. And originally they're going to branch into two branchings, and they're kind of hidden a little bit here, but you can see one goes up through this way, and if you follow the blue, one's going to go this way. So if this was our primary, not too surprisingly, once we branch, that's going to become secondary. And then once those branch again, you're not going to be too surprised here, we're going to make tertiary. Also sometimes get called the segmental tertiary bronchi. And then after the tertiary, we're going to go out to the terminal. So out here, then we get to the terminal. These smaller branchings are the terminal. So after that, there would be one more step. We cannot see them in the model level. Those would be the respiratory bronchioles, and that would be the final division of the actual bronchioles. Those are really small, only about 0.5 millimeter in size, and again, a little too difficult to see in this style of a model. So when you're moving through this system, you should be able to trace kind of airflow all the way through our primary and secondary external openings, all the way down through the trachea, and then out through these levels of branchings. And that would be a really good way to study that as you move forward. So what happens then after we get out past those respiratory bronchioles? So what's going to connect to next? Sorry, I'm going to grab a lung behind me here. What's going to happen next is that those are going to connect out to what are called the alveolar ducts. And then from the alveolar ducts, we're going to connect out to the individual alveoli. And then those alveoli are going to be contained within groupings that are called alveolar sacs. And so if we look at the actual texture of the lung here, we can actually see all these little pockets and structures. And these are going to be those air sacs then that we associate with those alveoli. You can see even in the model, we can make that out pretty clearly. If we look at the wall of the lung, we can make that out as well, and how those arms are extending out here. So what we've done is we've traced all the way through the path that air is going to take to make its way into the lungs. So the only other major component we need to do then are the lungs themselves. All right, so I'm going to just temporarily set these back in place so we can see what we're grabbing from here. So again, in anatomical position, we know this would be our right lung. And we can see that the right lung has 3 lobes. So we can see there's one up here, one here, and then if you look very carefully, you'll notice there's another line going right down through here. So this is the third lobe of that right lung. So we call these the superior, the middle, and the inferior lobe of the right lung. We go to our left lung, we pull that out. We can see that the left lung only has 2 lobes, so we just have a superior and an inferior lobe. So again, when you're working through this, what you want to be able to do is you want to be able to start all the way at the top here of the respiratory system. You want to be able to trace through the path of air. And then again, in this part of the video we just covered, that means going through the trachea, the primary bronchi, the secondary bronchi, the tertiary bronchi, and these terminal bronchi. After that, they're going to flow into those respiratory bronchioles, and then they're going to flow into the alveolar ducts, into the individual alveoli, and those individual alveoli again, are going to be found in clusters called alveolar sacs. Okay, that's the end of respiratory system video number 4. Make sure you complete your worksheet and turn that in. Hope you're all doing really well, and have a great rest of your week.